WMNF Tampa, and you're listening to Tuesday Cafe. During this show, during this 1 hour, we're going to be asking you for funds. We're also going to play a little bit of today's Democracy Now! And I'll be playing some clips later on from Tuesday Cafe. So thanks so much for joining us, and we are looking for your support. 813-239-9663 is the number to call in to show your support for whatever show you love on WMNF, whether it's Democracy Now! Or Tuesday Cafe. We're really looking forward to thanking you for your donations. I have some people to thank. I have one person right now to thank for a donation. I think more are going to be coming in just a moment. Marian Arroyo from Lakeland has contributed $38. So thank you so much for that donation, and thanks in advance. If you haven't donated yet, give us a call right now, 813-239-9663. We'll go back and hear the end of Democracy Now! In just a minute or two. I want to introduce Tom Scherberger, who used to host a show here called Wavemakers. They retired from Wavemakers to our sadness, but it was a great show, award-winning show here on WMNF. And Tom is here to ask you for your support for WMNF and tell us why MNF is so important.
Thanks so much, Sean. It's really, really important that this station stay on the air. As Sean mentioned, I did co-host a show with my wife, Janet, for 2 years. Every Tuesday at 11 o'clock, we were bringing you news and information about people making a difference in the Tampa Bay area. That show, we got a lot of good feedback. As Sean mentioned, we won an award for that show. It's a lot of work, though. This show is volunteer-driven. Sean also is the news director here, so he's got his hands full doing all sorts of other things in addition to this show. And most of the voices you hear on this station are people who are volunteering their time because they believe in this mission, that this station represents more than just money. Every other radio station you listen to practically on the air, they have one concern, and that is making money. This station has a mission to support peace, social justice. We have a lot of focus on environmental issues because we live in a very fragile state here in Florida. And we have seen the people in this state stand up and defend their park systems when it was under threat by the DeSantis administration. And Sean, in this show, has brought you many voices about that issue and many other environmental issues that are so important to the state. And we hope that if you enjoy those programs, if you have been informed by those programs, please call now and donate whatever you can, even if it's $10, $20, whatever you can. We need to hear from you, 813-239-9663.
Yeah, you can go to WMNF.org, which is our secure website, and take a look at all of the great thank you gifts that we have to offer, and you can pick out which one you like and make your donation on our website, WMNF.org. You can also donate on the WMNF Community Radio app, or you can call one of our great phone bank volunteers, 813-239-9663. And let's just play a little bit more of today's Democracy Now! I want to make sure that we get to this, but call in now and support Democracy Now! Or support Tuesday Cafe, whatever your favorite show is. And the most important thing is that you support community radio, 813-239-9663. Here's more of today's Democracy Now!
How the private corporation running the migrant detention center at Guantanamo has a history of rights abuses at other migrant detention facilities in the United States. The conglomerate is called Akima. It has over 40 subsidiaries and more than 2,000 contracts with the U.S. government. Last year, the Biden administration awarded a contract to run the Guantanamo Migrant Operations Center to Akima subsidiary. We're joined here in New York by investigative reporter Jose Olivares, whose latest piece for The Guardian is headlined, "Revealed, U.S. firm running Guantanamo migrant jail accused over rights abuses." Jose, it's great to have you with us. Lay out what you found.
Thank you so much, Amy. Yes, so obviously the Guantanamo Naval Base has a long history, and it's notorious for the military prison that it has housed war on terror detainees. There's been allegations of torture and abuse there. But what really the public didn't know too much prior prior to Trump's executive order, is that for decades there has existed a migrant detention center at the Guantanamo Naval Base. Now, this facility is divided into two. One part of it is run by the State Department, and the other part of it is run by ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Now, ICE, what I found is that last year, the Biden administration gave the ICE contract to Acoma Infrastructure Protection, which is this massive federal government contractor. And this contract is worth $163.4 million to run the Migrant Operations Center, which is what it's called. Now, technically, it is at the naval base, so it's extremely secretive. We don't know how operations take place, what the conditions are like for migrants there. But what's important to note is that for decades, this facility has been used to detain migrants, primarily those who are fleeing from the Caribbean, trying to make it to the U.S. and are intercepted at sea by the Coast Guard. Now, when they are intercepted at sea, they're sent to the Migrant Operations Center, where they are held and detained and processed, and sometimes either deported back to their home countries or repatriated to third nations. However, what I found with this investigation is that for decades, since the early 2000s, since the Bush administration, private contractors have been running this detention center. First, it started with GEO Group, one of the biggest private prison companies in the U.S. Then it moved to MVM Incorporated, which is a defense contractor. And now last year, the Biden administration gave Acoma this massive contract to run the facility for at least 5 years. What is also important to note here is that because it's on the naval base, it is extremely secretive. So we didn't know that throughout this, various presidential administrations, from Bush to Obama to Trump to Biden, and now under Trump again, migrants have been held at this ICE facility that is at Guantanamo. There's been no public oversight over the facility. There haven't been any public reports, even though they're congressionally mandated by members of Congress to publish reports about the conditions in the facility. But what I also found is that this company, Acoma Infrastructure Protection, is part of a larger conglomerate called Acoma. And Acoma has over 40 subsidiaries. It's a massive company that contracts with the government. And this company also runs other immigration and customs enforcement facilities throughout the U.S. I was able to find at least 5 of them, and 3 of them were, really widely criticized for their conditions inside and for the treatment of migrants around the U.S.
And Jose, who runs this company? How did it manage to gather so many federal contracts? You talk a little bit about its history and the personalities involved, if any, that you found.
Absolutely. So the history of Acoma is actually quite fascinating. It's a member of the Nana Regional Corporation, which is an Alaskan Native corporation. Now, Alaskan Native corporations were created in the 70s. They were created sort of in response to protests and social movements in order for the federal government to kind of grant indigenous people in Alaska federal contracts and just more opportunities, within their communities. And so the Nana Regional Corporation, it is owned by primarily indigenous people in Alaska. It is an Alaskan Native corporation, so all of the shares, everything is owned by Native Alaskan people. But within the Nana Regional Corporation is Acoma, and within Acoma is these 40 different subsidiaries, and these 40 different subsidiaries have dozens upon dozens upon dozens of federal government contracts. They work with dozens of federal agencies. They work with the Department of Defense. They work with the Department of Interior. They work with ICE. I found one instance in which one of Acoma's subsidiaries was hired to do maintenance of helicopters in Saudi Arabia for the military, but also to train Saudi military forces. Just different IT services, infrastructure. So it's a massive federal government contractor. However, because it is an Alaskan Native corporation, the shares for the company can't be traded, they can't be sold. So it's able to sort of escape any sort of regulation from the Securities and Exchange Commission. But because of its status as an Alaskan Native corporation, and because of the over 40 subsidiaries that Acoma has, it's able to very quickly get contracts that are supposed to be allocated from the federal government to small businesses. So they're technically a small business that is minority owned, and that's how they're able to sort of get these over 2,000 federal contracts.
And talking again about the Guantanamo detention center, what's the situation in terms of detainees, immigrant detainees there, and their access to lawyers?
Yeah, so the access to lawyers is extremely limited, and this has been ongoing, for decades that the migrant detention center has existed at the Guantanamo naval base. Now, what's important to note is that the Migrant Operations Center, which is what it's called, is separate from the military prison. But what we do understand from the Trump administration's actions is that migrants who were detained in the U.S. and then sent to Guantanamo for further detention, they were housed both at the military installations, the military prison, and at the Migrant Operations Center. Now, this Migrant Operations Center is divided into two sections. One section is run by ICE, one is run by the State Department, but we just don't know exactly how many people are detained there because of the lack of transparency that, again, spans decades and spans various presidential administrations. Now, I think what's important to note here is that because it is at the naval base, it's in Cuba, right? So migrants who historically primarily have fled from Haiti, from Cuba, from the Caribbean, have been intercepted at sea and then have been sent to the Guantanamo facility for further processing. But we just don't know how many have been sent there. Some estimates that I saw in some of the government contracting records show that between 2021 and 2024, there have been between 4 and 40 migrants who have been detained there. But this Migrant Operations Center, what is interesting about it and what I found with the federal government contracting records is that it has the capacity to hold 120 migrants, 120 people, but ICE requires the contractor to be able to expand the facility with a tent city to detain up to 400 migrants. There's a lot of unanswered questions here. There is a lack of transparency. We don't know what the conditions are like. And because migrants historically who have been detained there have either been deported to their home countries or sent to a third country, we don't hear too much about from the migrants themselves who have been detained there because they primarily really haven't been brought to the U.S.
And would these migrants sent to Guantanamo be counted under deportees because this is area controlled by the U.S. and Cuba? So they're just being sent there, not deported?
Correct. Yeah. So they're still under the custody of ICE and the Department of Defense.
Final question, and we just have about a minute. The human rights abuses that Acoma has been found guilty of.
That's right. So 3 different facilities have faced severe criticism. There is one facility in Florida called the North Chrome Processing Center, which is owned by Acoma. And the Department of Homeland Security, the Office of Inspector General, did a federal audit at the facility and found various instances of inappropriate use of force, including one case that I found in which guards at this facility opened the slot to the solitary confinement door of a man who was detained there and pepper sprayed him despite him showing no resistance or threat to anybody else. There's also a lawsuit for forced labor at the Buffalo Detention Center in upstate New York. And there's also been criticism of one of the solitary confinement units in Texas that it runs.
And finally, 30 seconds, you wrote a piece for DropSite. Biden gave Trump the blueprint to lock up 30,000 migrants in a private ICE jail at Guantanamo Bay.
That's right. Yeah, I think it's important to recognize that this deportation system, this Guantanamo Migrant Detention Center, has been passed down from administration to administration. They're really, from Democrats to Republicans, there has been no significant change between administrations.
Jose Olivares, I want to thank you for being with us, investigative journalist. We'll link to your piece in The Guardian, revealed U.S. firm running Guantanamo migrant jail accused of over rights abuses, as well as your piece for DropSite about Biden giving Trump the blueprint. We'll also do an interview with you in Spanish after the show and post it on our Spanish website at democracynow.org.
That was Democracy Now! For today. This is WMNF Tampa. You may recognize the theme song. This is Tuesday Cafe. I'm Sean Kinane. We come to you every Tuesday morning at 10 to bring you interviews. And today what I'm going to be asking you for is for you to support the programming that you get during Tuesday Cafe. And you can do that with your calls and your donations at 813-239-9663 or by visiting WMNF's website, which is WMNF.org. And we want to thank some people who donated during the end of Democracy Now! And I'm also going to thank some people who are supporting Tuesday Cafe. Thank you in advance to those people. Tom is going to thank some people who donated during Democracy Now!
We seem to have had a last-minute surge there. Sean, we want to thank all of these folks who are supporting WMNF and its mission. I want to thank Anonymous, who donated $60 for Democracy Now! Thank you, Anonymous. I want to thank Elisa from Gulfport.
Gulfport.
Gulfport is represented here. upping their Circle of Friends membership.
Nice.
To $180, and you could do the same thing. If you are a Circle of Friends member, you can increase your amount. I'm a Circle of Friends member. It's nice every month. You get a little money taken out of my account. You set it, you forget it, don't have to think about it. And you can get a Circle of Friends t-shirt if you decide to join Circle of Friends. We want to thank Anonymous for their $25 donation to Democracy Now! And all of WMNF. Thank you, Anonymous. I want to thank Deb Kusper from St. Petersburg for her $11 donation. We will take $1, $5, $11. I want to thank Deb for her $11 donation to support all of WMNF. Also, Sharon Carniato from Bradenton. We're hearing from Bradenton. For Democracy Now!, another $11 donation. Thank you for that, Sharon. And finally, we have an anonymous donation for $100 to support Democracy Now! Sean, a lot of people are standing up saying they want independent news. It is no joke. You know what is going on in this country right now. It is an assault on the free press. It's an assault on free speech. And the only way you can really get your voice heard is through independent media like WMNF. And we don't know what's going to happen to WMNF's funding, obviously. But they are laying off park rangers at national parks, one of the most important and supported things that this federal government does. If they're laying off park rangers, there is nothing that is safe, and including independent voices like WMNF. Maybe you're having a hard time watching the news. There's so much going on. But please make time to listen to WMNF. We are trying to bring you independent news, independent voices to tell you what's really going on.
And the number for you to support that is 813-239-9663. Thanks so much to everyone who has supported us so far. We're still looking for Democracy Now! To meet its goal. We are, I'm going to guess about, it looks like we're about $450 short of our goal for Democracy Now! So if you'd like to support Democracy Now!, please call 813-239-9663 and tell your phone bank volunteer that you'd like to support Democracy Now! If you prefer to support another show like Tuesday Cafe, say that to your phone bank volunteer or select that from the menu when you donate on the web at WMNF.org. Here's a new donation that just came in for Democracy Now! From David Marshall from Bradenton is joining the Circle of Friends at $20 a month. Thank you so much for that great donation. That is, he's going to get a bumper sticker, a WMNF window cling, 2 of them, that is. So thank you so much for that. 813-239-9663 or WMNF.org is how you can support these shows. We had some support for Tuesday Cafe as well. Cheryl Sweeney from Brooksville is donating $30. Thank you so much to that.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Sarah Hathaway from Tampa is contributing $81. Thank you for that donation as well. She says that Democracy Now! Is essential for essential truths. I'm a sustaining member, and this is extra help. So thank you, Sarah, for doing that. That's very helpful. And we also want to thank Gretchen Fry from Lakewood Ranch for a donation of $100. Well, thank you for those donations. So far, we've raised, it looks like maybe close to $200, maybe a little bit more. We still have about $1,500 that we need to raise on Tuesday Cafe this hour, and we're going to maybe get help with that because there's a challenge on the table. An anonymous donor said that they will pledge $500 to support Tuesday Cafe and WMNF if we can get 5 $100 donations right now. So we're looking for 5 people who can make a $100 donation each, and we'll get this additional $500 from an anonymous challenger. So we want to hear from you right now. Here's the telephone number, 813-239-9663 or WMNF.org.
And if you donate $100, we will thank you with a really nice artist long sleeve T-shirt. It's blue and it looks really nice. I was answering phones yesterday, taking donations from our listeners, and a lot of folks didn't even want a thank you note. They just want to support this station. But Other folks were calling specifically because they wanted to give $65 and be thanked with a nice WMNF coffee mug. Or for $188.50, you can get a really cool wireless speaker with a Bluetooth capability. It's really nice. So those are just a few of the thank you gifts that you can get if you support WMNF. Call 813-239-9663 now. Don't wait till the last minute like we did with Democracy Now! You're going to make us sweat here. Come on now. Let's support Tuesday Cafe with any level of donation you can provide.
That's right. We still need to raise, I think it's about $1,500 for Tuesday Cafe. So we're counting on you, and we're especially counting on you to take advantage of this challenge that we have on the table. If 5 of you out there will donate $100, we'll get an additional $500. So your gift will essentially be doubled if you call right now. Here's the number, 813-239-9663. So on a somber note, we lived through a very destructive hurricane season in 2024. And WMNF was with you through it all. And
radio is always there for you during a hurricane. And WMNF, they were sleeping on mattresses on the floors here at the station.
Yeah, and the WMNF news team did such a great job that I thought we should kind of save this for posterity. Save all the information that all the news stories we covered, all the live coverage that we had on the air the day of the hurricanes, and all the recovery afterwards. And so in November and December, what I did is I put together this 32-minute radio documentary about the hurricanes, and I played it on New Year's Eve. Maybe you missed it. If you did, it's up on our website. You can listen at WMNF.org. I'm going to play a short clip from that, maybe 4 or 5 minutes right now, so you can kind of hear what kind of news and information that we were providing during and after the hurricanes. And if you think that this type of information is worth supporting, we hope to hear from you. 813-239-9663 or WMNF.org. Here's just a few minutes of the WMNF radio documentary about the 2024 hurricane season called Storm Surge.
You're trying to get water out of your house. You're trying to file your insurance work. You're doing all of those things. But at the same time, you have really been emotionally impacted. You are feeling it.
The 2024 hurricane season in Florida is a story about anxiety and destruction, but it's also about resilience and community.
We have a great volunteers here. It's amazing how everyone's helping and stopping by for food and supplies and giving donations.
Storm surge, impacts of the 2024 hurricane season on the Tampa Bay community. Hurricane Helene's storm surge flooded homes with salt water from the Gulf of Mexico. Soon after the storm passed, the destroyed belongings were discarded on the curbs of thousands of homes in the Tampa Bay area. Several million cubic yards of debris lined the streets, including furniture, drywall, and boxes of ruined and waterlogged goods. Pinellas County officials called the amount of storm debris astronomically different compared to other storms. And a week after the storm, businesses in Gulfport were still cleaning up and residents gathering to share resources. Debbie Amos and her husband own the Tiki Bar and Grill. It's along the waterfront near the sand volleyball courts and the beach. The couple owns the business but leased the building. Amos says it sustained visible damage and estimates more than 4 feet of water entered the business.
The structures are, most of them anyway, are still standing, but everything on the waterfront here is completely damaged or a loss. Going in a few blocks from shore, probably up a good 4 to 5 blocks, I think, in this whole waterfront area is flooded, damaged, piles and piles of debris, and people's lives out on the curbs. And yeah, it's pretty surreal. It's what you see on TV, you know.
Helene tossed a large sailboat onto the shore across the street from the Tiki Bar. Amos says she's unsure when the bar will reopen.
Just cleaning up, trying to decide what we're keeping, what we're not, what can be salvaged or not. We have a great great volunteers here. It's amazing how everyone's helping and stopping by for food and supplies and giving donations. But we're just trying to get through what we should focus on, get ready for pickup, things like that.
A volunteer group delivered supplies as Amos and other people cleaned out the debris at her restaurant. The donations came from an aid distribution center at a local theater about 6 blocks inland. In the days following the storm, Gulfport became a hub of community support. Volunteers accepted donations at the theater and distributed aid packages to go out into the community. Nearby, a food truck sponsored by World Central Kitchen, a nonprofit that provides food relief to people in crisis, handed out hot meals. The floating dock was ripped out of the water and deposited in front of the Gulfport Brewery several blocks inland during the storm. It became a staging area for mutual aid activities. Allendale United Methodist Church in St. Petersburg was another mutual aid center. It sits on high ground, but it's near many of the flooded streets in the Old Northeast neighborhood. The city of St. Petersburg set up a full-service laundry facility there for residents. Hurricane Helene's widespread damages and loss left many people reeling after the storm. Organizations like the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay connected people to local resources and mental health support. CEO Clara Reynolds says many callers just focused on meeting their basic needs.
You're trying to get water out of your house. You're trying to file your insurance work. You're doing all of those things. But at the same time, you have really been emotionally impacted. You are feeling it.
Reynolds says the Crisis Center fielded 712 hurricane-related calls the weekend the storm hit. Well, that was part of the documentary called Storm Surge about the 2024 hurricane season in Florida, and it's a WMNF production. We hope that you found it valuable when we played it on Tuesday Cafe on New Year's Eve. And if you go back on the website and listen to it, WMNF.org, we hope that it's a valuable resource to you to remember the time, and we're still going through the recovery process. So if this is the type of journalism that we bring you here at WMNF, if you think that that's worth supporting, we need to hear from you now. Give us a call right now, 813-239-9663. You can make a donation at WMNF.org as well. And I want to remind you that we have a $500 challenge on the table. For the first 5 people who donate $100 during Tuesday Cafe, their donations will essentially be doubled because of this $500 challenge. So now is a great time for you to call and support WMNF, 813-239-9663 or WMNF.org.
And it's very important to keep in mind that on this station, we talk about climate change. These hurricanes that we've been seeing, they are the direct result of the climate change that we've been experiencing. There are those in both the federal government and the state government who don't want us talking about climate change. They want to pretend that it doesn't exist. Well, Sean has talked about it. My wife Janet and I on our former show, Wavemakers, we talked about climate change. We had Jeff Baradelli, the Channel 8 meteorologist, who is a climate expert, on for an entire hour to talk about the impact of climate change on hurricanes. We can't ignore it. We need to talk about it. And if you support this station, please call 813-239-9663 so that you can do something. It's very frustrating right now. It feels, a lot of people feel helpless. They don't know how to respond. They don't know how to react to what's going on right now in both the federal government and the state government. There are assaults on free speech, on free thinking at universities. If you want to help, if you want to get the word out to people about what's really going on, please consider supporting this station with any size donation, $5, $10. You call us, you join the circle of friends. Every month, $10 will come out of your bank account or your credit card, and that will go so far to help this station continue to address the issues that we know you believe these issues are important, and we have to address them. You can't ignore them. We're looking for solutions. We don't want to just complain about problems. So call now, 813-239-9663, and add your voice to the chorus of people who are supporting this station.
813-239-9663. Well, those voices are coming in right now. Carol from Apollo Beach has contributed $10 a month on the Circle of Friends. Thanks so much for bumping up your monthly membership to $10 a month. That's so fantastic. And she says of WMNF, you do great work. So thank you, Carol. So do you, and you make that work possible. Also, here's a Democracy Now! Donation. Daniel from Brandon has contributed $100, says, a great show. I really appreciate everything on the radio. So we appreciate you, and we are still looking for your donations. 813-239-9663 or WMNF.org. In a couple of minutes, we're going to ask for your donations right now, but in a couple of minutes, we're going to hear an interview that I did with May Pang last month. She is the girlfriend of John Lennon during the Lost Weekend era of the mid-'70s.
That was a long weekend.
Yeah, exactly. A year and a half long.
It was a fascinating interview. If you missed it, please catch this a brief excerpt that Sean's going to play.
Yeah, we're going to play just a few minutes of it now, but of course, as I mentioned about the documentary earlier, you can go back and listen or watch the full interview I did with May Pang. That's also on Democracy. That's also on WMNF.org.
And all of our news and public affairs shows are on are converted to podcasts almost immediately, and they're available on the WMNF archives or wherever you get your podcasts.
And all of this is a service that we provide to you, and in exchange, we're asking that you support it with your financial contributions, and that's how it keeps going. We're not able to do these things like have a website or turn our radio shows into podcasts, or in the case of Tuesday Cafe and the case of Live Music Showcase, turn it into a television show without donations from our generous listeners like you. So please give us a call right now, 813-239-9663, and say you support this type of programming. Maybe you can donate $10 a month, or maybe you can donate $5 a month or $10 a month. We need to hear from you. 813-239-9663. Oh, I failed to mention, so that donation that came in a few minutes ago, $10 a month on Circle of Friends. So that's the first of the challenges. We still need to get 4 people to donate $100 to get that challenge. So we're looking for your donation.
You can do it. Just $100 a month. Just $100. That's not even a monthly charge. Look at your bill every month for the streaming services you're paying for. Maybe, and they seem to be going up every month. Mm-hmm. What a value. If you join a Circle of Friends, let's say it's $10 a month. $10 a month for 24 hours a day of broadcasting, for music, news, important conversations that we have with leading leaders in this community. And then you get to call and talk to them, ask them questions. Where else can you do that but here on WMNF? So call now, 813-239-9663, and pledge whatever amount you can. But if you can afford $100, that amount will be matched, and it's like doubling the amount of money that you're donating.
The number to call to support this great radio station is 813-239-9663. You can also donate on the web at WMNF.org. Well, the Lost Weekend girlfriend of John Lennon, as I mentioned, was May Pang. She exhibited her photos of John in Ybor City last month. And in this segment of an interview, I asked May Pang about when she was with John and with Phil Spector. They were producing John's album called Rock and Roll. So here is what May Pang said about the rock and roll sessions.
Crazy. That's all I'm going to say. I was not used to it because we had been doing other albums and stuff in New York. And so this was the first time, you're working with Phil Spector, perfect person for cover songs from back in the 60s that John wanted to pay homage to all the people that represented his life, the songs he loved. And so perfect person, so we thought, until I realized that this man was carrying his guns. And John and I really thought that when he was carrying his guns that they were not real, that they were filled with blanks. And he was just showing, I'm Phil Spector and here are my guns, and who would have thought in a million years that they were loaded? Until he shot it off one day when we happened to be in L.A. and we were listening to something, and I was in one room, and John and Phil and Mal Evans, the original roadie for the Beatles, were in another room, And all of a sudden we heard this noise, and everybody that was in the room that I was standing in, the control room, ducked. And I'm standing there going, what is that sound? Everybody else is ducking except me. And I'm standing next to, of all people, Phil's mother, who happened to come by the studio. And I went running towards the sound, and I opened the door, and there's Phil with the gun in his hand. And John has his finger in his ear because the pop was so loud it was affecting his eardrum. And he's saying, Phil, if you're going to shoot me, but don't mess with my ears, man. I got to listen. I got to use them. And Mal goes over to Phil and says, give me that. You shouldn't have this in your hand. And Phil's going, you can't tell me what to do. And I'm going, hey, guys, come on. What's going on? You know, here's the youngest person. I am the youngest person in this group, but seem to be the oldest person in this group. And I'm going, what is going on? And Mal says, you know, we're just horsing around. And he was doing something. Phil was doing something that was hurting Mal. And you know, Mal, just as he was back then, gentle giant, said, can you not do that? It really hurts. You know, that you're hurting my nose, and I could feel it. And Phil didn't take to it too well, and that's when he went and he drew the gun out, and it went off. Well, lo and behold, everybody calmed down. We all went back to the recording. The next day, John and I are having a peaceful dinner, as so we thought, and I see Mal. I said, Mal's in the restaurant. He goes, Mal, you know. And he comes running, he goes, oh, I've been looking for you two. And he said, what's going on? He goes, well, just wanted to show you the bullet from last night. And both John and I were like stunned. What bullet? You know, that's how it was. What bullet are you talking about? He goes, there were real bullets? We were just so totally taken aback by that one.
And there was something that set John off around this time when you were recording Rock and Roll, when Phil Spector was there. Didn't John go off into a rage and even physically abuse you at some point around this time?
You know, his story has gotten more out of hand than anything. When we were in the recording session, the first thing I noticed was there were bottles of liquor. And I said to John, I've never seen this before. And obviously Phil had ordered all of this stuff. So everybody was drinking. And so what happened was John hanging out with the boys, and all the boys, and I say that, wanted to go party. Me being the only one not drinking, a lot of them didn't take too kindly to that one. Not Phil, not anybody. So John thought he was just one of the boys. And the abuse was really more like he just shoved me to the side, but it wasn't like he was really going at it. He didn't even realize. And I mean, John was he was just like, what happened? He didn't even realize what had happened. So John was just wanting to be one of the guys. But what people fail to understand, he did not do this and say, oh, I'm going to go and continue on. And, you know, it was instigated by so many of them, including Phil. I mean, he was a big instigator for those sessions, that he would come in late, we'd be waiting, and everybody was already getting drunk because all the liquor is sitting out there for the boys to enjoy, and I was not happy about it at all, you know, and that's what happened. And I said to John at one point, somebody's going to hurt somebody soon. And I was talking about people who were leaving drunk and driving. And that's what scared me. And it did happen. Somebody did have a crash.
Well, that's May Pang speaking with WMNF's Tuesday Cafe last month. And you can watch this whole interview. It's on WMNF.org. Did you go to see May Pang's photographs of John Lennon when she was here in Ybor City? I ran into so many people when I was there. I saw Grateful Ed and some other WMNFers when I went to see the photos. And every time I run into somebody, they're like, oh, I heard your interview. And so I went to see that exhibition. So if WMNF is a service to you of finding out what's going on in the community, and you think it's worth supporting, give us a call, 813-239-9663. I bet you didn't expect to hear an interview about the inner workings of a John Lennon recording session when you turned on your radio this morning, because it's not happening anywhere else in the Tampa Bay area except here on WMNF Tampa. So we hope that you support this kind of programming. We're looking for John Lennon fans. We're looking for fans of Real Hard News as well. 813-239-9663. You can donate as well at WMNF.org. We have a $1,700 goal this hour, a very lofty goal. We can do that with your help. We also have a $500 challenge on the table. We're looking for 4 additional people to donate $100 or more this hour to get a $500 match. Could that be you? 813-239-9663 or WMNF.org. I'm Sean Kinane, and I'm joined in the studio by Tom Scherberger. And we are trying to raise funds for WMNF.
Thanks, Sean. It's really great to be here to support not only Tuesday Cafe, but WMNF in general. Every dollar you donate for this show is supporting the entire station's mission we support peace, sustainability, environmental action. What's so crazy about those things? You know, that is a mission we believe that everyone can support, but apparently there are those in both federal and state government who don't think that a station like this should exist. They think diversity is a dirty word. You just heard an example of diversity with that interview. We have all different kinds of programming here. Every musical taste is addressed on this station, and we have lots of different voices providing you news, information, and we bring on a lot of different voices that talking about the important issues that are facing this community. So if you're trying to figure out how to deal with the situation we're confronting right now with both the state and the federal government, this is a great way to do it. Call 813-239-9663. The president and the chair of the FCC, let's face it, they're parroting the guidelines of Project 2025. They're explicitly saying that they want to take away funding from public media. Now, the largest source of funding for this station is not from the government, either state or federal. It is from you, the listener. This station has survived for 45 years because of you. And if you would like to continue this station, it would continue the mission that we've been on for 45 years, please call 813-239-9663. And as Sean mentioned, we need 4 folks who can pledge $100 each, and their pledge will then be matched by another donor. That's like doubling the amount that you're pledging. Do that now, because that is only good for this hour. 813-239-9663.
Well, now we only need 3 people to donate $100 to get that match, because Lenore in St. Petersburg has contributed $250. Thanks so much, Lenore. We appreciate that donation. Now we need to hear from you. 813-239-9663 or WMNF.org. The reason that you support is because you love the programming on WMNF. Let me tell you about some of the programs that I've brought to you on Tuesday Cafe. This is just since the last time we asked for funds, which was a long time ago, about 5 months ago. So I've done a lot of programs. I'm going to read some of them now and some of them later on. First, I'd like to thank the people who have filled in as guest hosts for me on Tuesday Cafe in the last few months. Ahmed Badir, Gary Gibbons, Janelle Irwin, Megan Bowman, Chris Young. Thanks to all those people for filling in as guest hosts. Also, we've had topics about the environment, like we had the Clean Water Amendment, Florida scrub jay, which we'll hear an excerpt from in the next few minutes, endangered pillar corals, sea turtle nesting in the 2024 season, and mosquito control. Those are some of the environmental stories that we've covered here on Tuesday Cafe. We also, I'm going to read more of them later. There's just so many, but I want to ask you to go to your phones and support the great programming you hear on WMNF, including Tuesday Cafe. If this is a show that you enjoy, we want to hear from you right now. Donate at WMNF.org, or you can call 813-239-9663 and make your donation there as well.
As you know, the news landscape has shrunken tremendously. There are fewer reporters out on the streets trying to find out what's going on, to tell the public, and this station has committed its resources to trying to do something about that. We have reporters on the streets. We have they're both volunteer reporters and staff members who are trying to bring this news to you. You can help support that mission with a pledge of any size, but try to do it before the hour ends so you can take advantage of this matching, this $500 matching fund. You can, if your $100 will then be matched by another $100, it's like doubling your money. But please do it now. Don't wait until after the show. You'll lose that opportunity and we'll lose that money. So please call 813-239-9663 if you're trying to figure out what to do, how to deal with this environment we're in right now, this anti-free speech environment. This is a station that believes in free speech. We give our listeners an opportunity to get on the air and share their ideas. Please support the station with your donation, 813-239-9663.
Yeah, Tom, we're still looking for 3 more $100 donations to help us get that $500 matching gift. That would be fantastic. So maybe you're out there and you'd like to make a $100 donation. You can call 813-239-9663 or donate at WMNF.org. I'm going to play a short segment from an interview I did about the Florida scrub jay. Several environmental groups intervened in a lawsuit this month. The lawsuit is challenging local protections in Florida for the scrub jay. On Tuesday Cafe, we learned about the Florida scrub jay, how its habitat is in danger, and about a lawsuit that's trying to undo Federal Endangered Species Act protections for the threatened bird species. So here is a small chunk of an interview I did with Elise Bennett with the Center for Biological Diversity, which is one of those groups.
They are these beautiful, brilliant blue songbirds, and they're actually Florida's only endemic bird, which means that these birds are found nowhere else on Earth. They really are part of what makes Florida so special. If you've heard of a Florida scrub jay, you've probably heard about them because they're incredibly gregarious. They're inquisitive, they live in family groups, and when you take a hike through their territory, you'll see their little heads popping out of the scrub oaks watching you. They've been known to land on people's hats. And because of that gregarious nature, people come from far and wide to see our scrub jays.
And I read a little bit on Audubon.org. So some of the things that they say there is that they breed in cooperative flocks, and each nestling territory is occupied by an adult pair and often by 1 to 6 helpers. And the pairs often the offspring from the previous years. And these additional birds help in defending the territory and feeding the young. So kind of interesting. And as far as the population goes, in the early 1990s, the total population was estimated at about 4,000 pairs. And that's probably a reduction of more than 90% from the original members, and loss of habitat has been the main problem. So tell us about where scrub jays live and what's happening to their habitat.
Well, that's exactly right. Florida scrub jays live in the same high, dry ground that humans like to build on. And their habitat is really unique and uniquely beautiful. They live in these scrub oaks, which are kind of low-growing oak trees that grow right out of the beautiful, brilliant white sands that we find on the historic coastal ridges along Florida. And so they're beautiful places to visit. The scrub itself is actually quite endangered as well. And so you can see as the scrub becomes more and more endangered, so too does the scrub jay.
About 10 years ago, Charlotte County, which is south of Sarasota, came up with a scrub jay habitat conservation plan. Why did they do that, and what does that plan do?
Well, because Florida scrub jays face extinction and because they're listed under the Federal Endangered Species Act, people aren't allowed to kill or capture or harass or harm them without a permit. And harm can include destroying areas of habitat that they use. And so rather than have each person in the county go through a permitting process one by one, which can have some regulatory uncertainty and for an individual could be a more overwhelming process, the county decided to come up with a habitat conservation plan and get a countywide permit for take of these Florida scrub jays. And that habitat conservation plan was created in 2013. And this concept is intended to benefit the scrub jay, but I think what also is really remarkable about it is it provides regulatory certainty to landowners. When they move into the area, they know or should know that this habitat conservation plan exists.
And the habitat conservation plan means that if a developer, if a landowner wants to develop land that's in the scrub, they have to pay a fee. So tell us about that fee and what it would be used for once it's collected.
That's right. The Habitat Conservation Plan requires a fee as well as, in some circumstances, additional on-site mitigation or basically protecting habitat on the site where development is occurring. And the fee itself is intended to actually go towards the county acquiring other areas of habitat to protect them in perpetuity, as well as to manage the habitat, because these habitats actually require what would be natural management by lightning-caused fires. They can actually be maintained by prescribed fires. So people will go out and actually burn these sites to keep them healthy.
So the fees and the other rules that were part of Charlotte County's Habitat Conservation Plan for the scrub jays, well, that ruffled the feathers of a group called the Pacific Legal Foundation. What do we know about them?
Well, we know that they consider themselves to be a private property rights group. And so that's the gist of the kinds of cases that PLF brings. And in this particular scenario, it's a similar kind of case we might expect. It's a landowner that moved into the county, bought a piece of property that was subject to this conservation plan, and now objects to these fees.
And so they filed a lawsuit last year in response to the Charlotte Plan, and they want to remove Endangered Species Act protections from the scrub jay and do away with this Habitat Conservation Plan?
That's right. Among other things, this case alleges that the county's program is unconstitutional. And they're arguing that protecting a species that's found in only one state goes beyond Congress's authority under the Constitution. And that's a really concerning argument, but it's also an argument that has been shot down in courts time and time again. And so the reason that we moved to intervene in this case is to make that very point.
Well, that's Elise Bennett with the Center for Biological Diversity, and we are speaking to her about the Florida scrub jay and their lawsuit that's trying to take away protections, habitat protections for the Florida scrub jay. We do cover environmental stories here on Tuesday Cafe and on WMNF because I think that our audience appreciates that and feels that it's important. And if you do, we would like to hear from you with your financial contribution to keep programming and interviews and news stories like that going. The number to call is 813-239-9663 or WMNF.org. You're listening to WMNF Tampa. We're up almost to the top of the hour. We're hoping that you show your support for Tuesday Cafe. We've raised just over $1,000 this hour. We need to raise about $620 more. So if you're out there and you can make a $620 contribution, know that you would be the person that puts Tuesday Cafe over the top for this day of drive. And if you can't donate $620, that's okay as well. We're definitely looking for $100 donations. We need to raise 3 more of those to get that matching $500 contribution. So please call now, 813-239-9663 or WMNF.org.
You know, that interview about the scrub jay is an example of the kind of reporting that you get here on WMNF. Where else are you going to hear about this? These are issues that you all need to know about these things. The voters need to understand what's going on in their government. And this station has been doing this for 45 years, longer than many of our listeners have been alive. And we want this station to continue because this station is committed to peace, social justice, sustainability. That's the mission. It is not the mission of this station, like so many other media, to make money. We don't publish clickbait because we need to get more eyeballs on our stories. We are putting these stories out because we believe that you need to know what's going on, and our decisions are driven by our mission, not by our profit mission. We don't have a profit mission. This is a nonprofit organization. We've been going for 45 years. Please call 813-239-9663 to make sure that mission continues. And also, if you can pledge $100, it will be matched, and that looks like doubling your money. So call 813-239-9663. That offer is not going to be around forever, but if you call now, you can have your money doubled.
Well, in about a minute, we're going to go hear NPR News headlines, and after the top of the hour, I'm going to have a very special selection for you. We're going to actually play some Bob Dylan recorded and unreleased from 1962 that's available on the Pacifica Radio Archives Bob Dylan special USB drive that we can offer you for a $100 donation. So that's to tease you, to keep you staying tuned to WMNF, because in maybe 10 minutes or so, we're going to hear that Bob Dylan music. Right now, we are looking for donations. 813-239-9663.
I think the phone is ringing, Sean.
Yeah, I see one person on the line.
We're almost at the end of this hour. Please do what you can to support Tuesday Cafe. This show brings very important information to you that you need to know about, that you're not going to hear anywhere else. Please call 813-239-9663. Have your $100 matched.
Yeah, we're looking for 3 more people to donate $100 each. 813-239-9663. You can also donate at WMNF.org. This is